United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Yellowberry, can you give us a moment of silence, please?
A moment of silence for one of our students at West Las Vegas, Anthony Cedillo, passed away in a car accident. Pray for his family, pray for the community, pray for other residents around it. It's hard to see things that we see, and kids like that lose a life. Just keep the family in your prayers.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Chairman Howell. Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of December the 18th, 2019. I'm sorry, I
Approval of the
skipped the
agenda.
approval of the agenda. Sorry about that.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair,
It's approval of it, yes.
make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
Commissioner Ulivari,
Yes.
Commissioner Casey,
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Howell.
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Romero, a second by Commissioner Ulivari and Commissioner Davis.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you,
item.
Chairman Hall. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of December the 18th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move approval of the minutes with minor corrections that have already been sent in.
Great.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Casey,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulivari.
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casey, a second by Commissioner Romero. Thank you, Chairman Hall. Motion carries.
Thank you.
The
Do we have any
next-
public input?
There's nobody signed up for public input at this time. Chairman Howell, Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is presentation. We have our Housing Authority Finance Report by our financial specialist, Natasha Martinez.
Okay. Welcome, Natasha.
Good evening, Commissioners,
Good evening.
Chairman. Tonight in your packet, you guys received the finance report through December 31st. Half of our year had lapsed. When you look at our dwelling rent and the revenue side, we are still low. Currently, Ms. Padilla will go over our vacancies. Our dwelling rent is directly related to vacancies, as well as housing families who may be receiving less income than the tenants that we moved out. So that's kind of the reason why our dwelling rent is a little under. As soon as we get more units online, that should increase it. Our operating subsidy, our accrual, and both our dwelling rent and our subsidy are accruals. So these are allocated monies. So these are monies that we've not yet received in cash, but they are accrued to us. We have $379,860 that is in our lock system. For housing other income, we have $10,512. For our transfer in from CFP and from other funds, we have just the general fund transfer of $7,497. We haven't received our drawdown from our newest capital fund grant just yet. So as soon as we receive that, that'll be reflective in here. Employee expenses are at 48%, and then our operating expenses always a little bit lower because we're keeping that the line item for betterments and improvements for our units that we want to turn around. We keep that line item kind of as a rollover budget line item. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission?
I got a question.
Yes.
How many units are you planning to fix or get them ready?
What was the question?
How many units are they trying to get ready for?
So all of our vacant units that have currently been moved out of the maintenance, we have 4 maintenance guys and 1 maintenance supervisor. Each of them are actually in a unit. So as soon as that unit gets turned around, I think we should have based off of our staff meeting this morning, I think 2 or 3 should be out by next week, and then they'll jump on the other vacancies. And currently, I think we have 8 vacancies?
7 or 8. maybe.
7 or 8 vacancies. So based off of that, you know, if we can get them all turned around in the month, then we'll have that happen. But we also have like projected, I think, another 6 projected families that have turned in their 30 days to move out as well. As well as, I included in there, I think, are 2 pending evictions.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chairman Howell. Commissioners, the next item under the presentation is the HUD assessment report.
Yes.
There is, in your packets, a letter addressed to Honorable Ventura Howell, Mayor Pro Tem, and Anne Marie Gallegos, the interim city manager. This letter is regarding the additional liability in the amount of $3,808 to be paid back to HUD. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to present this, so the letters are attached along with the operational assessment dated October 31st, 2018.
Could you repeat the amount of debt again, please? And speak a little louder, because I can't.
$3,808. I'm sorry, $808,000.
Any questions from the commission?
I have some, but you did not meet with the HUD people on this report?
Commissioner Casey, no, I did not.
And Ms. Padilla, you didn't either?
No, I did not, sorry.
So, Anne Marie, maybe you can come up and we can ask you questions?
Is she here?
Has this report been made public?
Yes, it has been.
Okay.
Let me just give a brief summary as to what transpired last week. I did have an email from HUD indicating that they would be here in town on Wednesday, and they requested that Councilor Howell will be there as well as myself, and they have the operational assessment report completed, and they wanted to meet with the 2 of us. So I confirmed with Councilor Howell. I also asked her if there was anyone else that they would like present at the meeting, and they requested that Councilor Romero, or Commissioner Romero, be present as well. And so on Wednesday at 11 o'clock, Councilor Howell, Commissioner Howell, Commissioner Romero, myself, and Tom Rabel, as well as Miss Barbara White from Houston, and Donna White from Houston, and Mandy Gregg from the HUD office in Albuquerque. We went through the assessment report, and the biggest part of the report, Commissioner Casey, was that they did want to quantify the number of units that have been either demolished or sold that did not comply with their regulations, and they wanted to quantify the number. We've already added a note to our financial statements that there is a liability issue with the HUD on this, and we were just waiting for the number from HUD for us, so that we could disclose it on our audit as well. The big number that we have currently is $3,808,000 that Barbara has indicated. They did also request that that the commissioners approve a resolution within a 30-day period accepting the liability from HUD. And that's really in a nutshell what the issue is about, and then of course, we need to, work on the once we accept the liability and we approve the resolution, then we need to start working on a repayment plan, and that'll come from the general fund dollars. How we do that or how we structure the repayment plan is something that we will have to bring back to the commission and see if it's suitable, and then of course send it to HUD and see if that's something that they will accept. They have indicated that they will not accept a 30-year term. We're looking at a 5 to a possibly 10-year period that we will do some type of repayment plan to HUD. And those dollars go from general fund to housing so that they can capture those funds and possibly put the units back into the HUD program as well. Can you think of anything else that was major? We did talk about, I know there was a question regarding the policies and procedures, and so we're still waiting for Mandy to, she's going to email us back and let us know about the policies and procedures that she has not received yet, and so we're waiting for that. We're also waiting for a template on the resolution. We haven't received that as well. As soon as that comes in, then we may have to set up a special meeting to have you review the resolution, acknowledging the liability.
My question is, it was my understanding at the time that we were having discussions about transferring the administration of the HUD housing to another city, Raton, and we had talked to them about it, and they were willing to take it. It was my understanding that if we did that and started moving in that direction, that we would not have to pay, that we would only have to pay the 400 and some thousand that was owed for the sale of the houses that should not have ever been sold in the first place. And it was also my understanding that if we didn't do that, and if we didn't make any effort to pay what we were supposed to have been paying, that we would have to end up paying the $3.8 million. And so my question is, if we knew that, why did we not follow through and work on paying the $400,000 instead of now having to pay $3.4 million more than what we should have paid in the first place?
We have currently paid up to, I believe the balance on the $400,000 is, after the payment for this year, the balance left is $90,425.
So we have been paying on it.
Yes, sir.
We have been paying on it,
Yes,
yes.
So if we had been paying on it, why did they say that we hadn't paid as of, I think, 2018?
There was a balance that they cited of $11,685. I wasn't aware of a repayment agreement that had been signed between the city and HUD. And we had been transferring $10,000 versus $15,000 last year when it was brought to our attention. We went ahead and, if you'll recall, I asked for a budget increase of $11,685. That made up the underpayment. In addition, we paid $150,000. We also paid them an additional $150,000 plus $21,685 last year. And that brought our balance down to $240,000. This year we're paying them $165,000. That's already been budgeted. And I did provide, Mandy had asked me for this information, and I provided this information to them.
And do we have the $3.8 million in the budget?
To pay outright. And that's something that we would have to work on. We need to first get the resolution approved, and then start working on on how we repay it. There's certain, we have some options that we can explore. We need to look at our budget and see what we can and we can't. So I wouldn't be able to give you a yes or a no on that, a firm yes or no answer until I look at it again.
I think what concerns me is that the sale of the houses took place in 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's like, oh, well, nothing was done. And so we should have been working on trying to fix that problem all along. And then the payment for, the 400 and some thousand, that agreement was done in February of 2018 before Councilor Libarri was a counselor, before I was a counselor, before Councilor Romero was a counselor. And so, that concerns me because it seems like nobody paid any attention to what was happening, and we should have been doing something before then to address this issue so that we wouldn't be stuck with such a huge amount of money. I mean, we could have paid 400,000 plus, and yes, that's a big chunk of money, but it's not as big a chunk as $3,800,008. So, somewhere, the ball was dropped, and we can't let that happen. We need to take care of this. We need to get it done. And it's also my understanding that once we accept, the responsibility, we're accepting blame for not having done what we were supposed to do, and we're stuck paying that $3,808,000. And, we don't have that kind of money in the city to just be paying out here and there. So we really do need to be paying a lot more attention to any kind of agreements that we have with HUD and make sure that we stick to those agreements and that somebody is monitoring those so that we don't end up in another situation similar to this one. I'm very, very concerned about this, and I'm disappointed that we have to pay this money back when we don't have the money. And if we're going to have to pay it back in, 5 to 10 years, that's still a lot of money to pay out. I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't be able to pay that kind of money in even 30 years, probably. So, we really do need to get this taken care of as quickly as possible and get it done and move forward. And we need to, whatever it takes to revitalize those units that are still out there not occupied. We need to get this program back on track and get us moving forward.
And I think, Counselor, that we did accept the responsibility for the 400,000, and that was why we put into place the repayment agreements that we have. We're very close to paying off that 400,000 because we did acknowledge the fact that we did owe the money. And it takes time, but it's taken us 2.5 years to repay it back, and so that is a lot of money. And so you have to budget for it, and you have to make sure that that we have the funds available. And I agree with you. In terms of accepting the liability for the $3,000,008, when we had our visit with HUD from Houston, we had thought that it would be close to $4.5 million. And so the $3.8 million that we're looking at now, it is our liability. It is the city's fault from whatever time it was. But right now what we need to do is address the issue, address it with our auditors, and address it with HUD as well, and then move forward and put a payment plan process that is acceptable to both parties. Something that the city can afford, and as well as what HUD will accept. And so that's where we're moving. That's what we're moving towards.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, but I'm still a little concerned that, if that agreement was signed in February of 2016, and we didn't start paying until 2018, that's a 2-year lag there that nothing happened. And we should have been addressing that like day one. And so those are the issues that that I'm concerned about, because I think when we have something that is that important and vital to our program, we don't want to lose housing.
Well, actually.
We don't want to jeopardize anything.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner, we did start making payments in 2014.
Our first payment
Our
was for
first-
that.
Well, the
Before
first
you had the,
payment was for the
before you
church.
had the
Repayment
Agreement.
agreement.
repayment, yeah.
Yes.
And that church wasn't supposed to have been bought either.
No,
Yeah.
no, ma'am. And that one we did pay outright immediately upon receiving the special report.
Mhm.
And it was booked, the 460,000 was booked at that time, and then we started making payments in 2014, which I provided all of those payments. I was asked by Mandy Grego to provide her a payment listing, which I did provide her. I'll forward you the email I sent her with the documentation. And, but our payments did start in 2014.
Well, I just think that we need to really be very careful about, agreements that we make with outside entities that affect the city financially, so that we make sure that this doesn't ever happen again, because it's a very serious issue. And, when I saw the numbers, I almost fell out of my chair. I thought, my goodness, that's an awful lot of money to have to pay back.
And
Um,
unfortunately, it's currently
Market value.
Yeah.
construction.
And I'm wondering, and I hope that Mandy will see this tape, is the houses were sold illegally in 2002. Why did HUD not do anything about it then? That should have been nipped in the bud right away, and they should have taken action back then, not 17 years later, trying to pick up the pieces of something that happened such a long time ago with, I don't know how many different administrations in between then and now. And so I think that we need to really make sure that whatever we do, we don't let that happen ever again, so that whoever comes in after this governing body, that we don't have that kind of situation coming up for the city. We need to protect the city and the citizens that live here.
We're both in agreement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Romero?
Just a bit of history, me coming into council basically almost 2 years ago, is I ended up coincidentally at a meeting when Mandy first came in, and I think the facts are this right now, is we had that repayment plan. There was concern about us paying it back when I first came in. And not too far after that, that's when the talk of transfer came about. We knew that those houses, we owed on them. There was no dollar figure until now that this assessment came out. There was figures thrown out there, but there was no definite. We had the compliance review that there were many issues, as we all know, and I think the majority of us tried to get those addressed. That never happened. There were some minor things as far as trainings, we never got those done. And ultimately, and this is all documented, recorded, is the mayor felt that the Albuquerque office was picking on her, or on us. This review that came out, that came out is basically a review from Washington DC that was requested by the mayor, and everything pretty much is the same thing as the review that was done by the Albuquerque office, except for they put the dollar amount. One of the questions that I had is to make sure that those findings that were in the first review that the Albuquerque office were done. They said there's still a couple that haven't been done, and I guess they were going to send an updated list on that.
We haven't received anything in
But
that.
she was gonna work on that and send that to us. It just, yes, this was done before, but I think it's something we gotta take care of, and I'm gonna state it right here, I'm still in favor of the transfer, because ultimately, housing is for the low income in our community, and I think an agency that specifically works on, that does housing, I think it's hard for the city of Las Vegas to, the city manager, and then we have the housing director, and there's too much red tape in order for us to ensure that program is run efficiently. But we are where we're at, and we've got to move forward. And yes, this 3.8 is a big number, and that's pretty interesting how we're going to take care of that. But it's something that I think we could have nipped in the butt back in last year, but we are where we're at today, and let's move on.
I think that I agree with you, Councilor, Commissioner. I think that this is an issue that has been in for well over 20 years. And unfortunately, you commissioners have had to address it. Someone has to address it, and we need to move forward with it, and we need to finish it. There may come a recommendation to move the housing to a regional office, and that's something that the commissioners will have to discuss, of course, and then make a decision on it, because I think that is probably forthcoming as well. The first thing on the table is addressing the liability, and that's what we intend to do.
And I think, and I brought this up, and I think you guys could vouch for this, is a lot of the reasons, and I know Councilor Villabri has been concerned, with other housing, how come they're doing this, how come they're doing this for their residents? And once again, it's because this debt has not been paid in money, right?
Yes, there's lots of stuff lots of programs, councilors, commissioners, that we can't apply for, and we can't, we applied for a safety and security grant that we checked all the boxes, crossed all the T's, did all of that about 2-3 years ago, and I think we're just on that short list of no.
And there's probably other issues. When you go into a regional group, there's actually more money available for any and all housing. So sometimes you have to look at what is the best thing for our housing itself. Is it going to be, will it bring us more funding or more buildings by us being able to move the program to a regional office? And to me, those are the things we need to look at, is how is it going to help us? Is it going to make us a better facility for our community? Those are things that we'll have to discuss.
And then the clarification is that
Yes, sir.
Las Vegas will not lose housing. We would have somebody else basically managing.
That's right.
Las Vegas would still have a representative on their board. So it's not like we're going to lose it and it goes
Right.
away. Housing would still be here in Las Vegas. And
Maybe
I think it would be-
a bigger pot of money
Yes.
that we would maybe be eligible for.
Ms. Anne Marie, we're going to be having another meeting to discuss this specific issue.
As soon as Commissioner Howell, what I've asked Barbara to do is to contact Mandy for the possibility of a resolution that may be formatted in order to accept the liability. That's the first step, and I believe they have given us 30 days to do that. So we may have to do a special meeting to
Right.
accept the liability, to bring it back to the commissioners and do that.
As I understand also that in this, within this letter, there's guidelines on how to develop a resolution.
Yes, sir.
So we don't have to wait for her to send it.
No, we wouldn't want to wait for her to send it. We would want her to review it first, or have the HUD office review it first, make sure it's in acceptable terms, show it to our legal as well, and then move forward with it.
And all we're waiting for from Mandy is that a listing of all of the action items that we need to take
Yes.
care of.
And so we'll move forward with that, and we may have to call a special meeting within the next week or so, so that we can formulate the resolution and move forward.
One more question if I may.
Let me, Commissioner, nothing. Commissioner Gilbert?
I do agree with my commissioners, because we should have taken care of this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, and maybe we could have had more info and information on it. But they gave us some information, but we didn't exactly know what was going on after the sales of those illegal housing that they sold. So it's hard to come in here and they give us these kind of numbers and for the city to pay that we could have used that money for something else. But we're here to work together, and make the best of it.
Thank you.
Just a quick question to Tana. How much money do we have in reserves, and can we use any of that money to help pay for this?
There's about 1.6.
We've done, we knew that this was coming, and we've been setting aside any kind of fundings that we have from general fund, so that when this time came, we would have to, we would of course have to need to address it. A year ago, we did meet, as I said, with Houston, and they were going to give us a number, and so this is the number that they have finally come up with. And I believe it was in October of 2018 that we met, so we were just waiting for the number, and I know that our auditors have contacted HUD as well to see what that number is. We'll be giving that information over to them and then take it on, move it forward.
Additionally, he is including in our current year financial audit, a no disclosure about, but at the time that it went to print, of course, we didn't have a dollar amount so that we could disclose it in the audit. But the city is taking, disclosing that we have this outstanding liability.
One more point of clarification, Ms. Gallegos. How did HUD come up with a 3.8? What's the explanation on that?
It was, my understanding is it was the market value of the units, and I believe it was 112,000 per unit is what I believe was disclosed.
And then how many units?
34.
Since that is true.
I just wanted the community.
Should be down to
34 units is what I
34.
understand.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, commissioners?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Padilla, what's the
Thank you,
next
Chairman,
item?
Fellow Commissioners. The next item on the agenda is the Housing Director's Monthly Report. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. Just we have the waiting list manager continues to accept and process applications daily. I believe going on the radio did help. We have received more applications coming in daily. So our waiting list manager at last week, as of last week, there were 72 applicants on the waiting list total. On our 0 to 1 bedroom, there were 54 applicants. We had 13 on our 2-bedroom waiting list, 4 on our 3-bedroom waiting list, 1 on our 4-bedroom waiting list, and we don't have anybody on our 5-bedroom waiting list. We can actually pull people off of the other waiting lists if we need to house some of those units. So we do that when we need to. Our housing managers recertified 17 families for lease renewal and completed 4 move-in orientations. They continue with lease enforcement, lease renewals, annual special inspections, and other day-to-day operations. The housing maintenance staff prepared 4 units for move-ins in December, and there were 7 move-outs in the month of December also. As the council had mentioned about the vacancies, we do currently have quite a high number of vacancies for some unknown reason. We have people move out for different reasons. There's always something. It's either maybe they're going to purchase their own home sometimes, or they're just moving out of the community, or they've found another alternate housing. That's about all I have for my director's report at this time.
Any questions, commissioners?
Thank you, Chairman Howell. The next item on the agenda is Commissioner's report.
I do have one question. How often are we using the 5-bedroom home?
Commissioner, Chairman Howell and Commissioners, we only have 2 5-bedroom units. Currently, they're both occupied.
They
So,
are?
yes, they're currently occupied. We don't have any, if they were to move out though, we don't have anybody on the waiting list at this time.
Okay.
But we do try to recruit people, as I mentioned, going on the radio to help.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Howell. Commissioners, the next item is the Commissioner's report.
Commissioner Amber?
No, I don't have anything at this time.
Commissioner Romero?
I just had one question. I know during this whole assessment, at the time Albuquerque, you guys weren't really in contact with Albuquerque, but now you are? Is that correct?
Commissioner, we've always been in contact with Albuquerque.
Or just not Mandy? Is that?
We've been in contact with everybody. I'm not sure if you want to clarify or the question.
Well, I thought during this whole assessment and all this that was going on, I thought you weren't,
Oh, I'm sorry.
or she couldn't work with us
Chairman
or
Howell,
something?
we weren't aware of this, you're talking about the assessment that we just
Yeah.
received? No, we had not received anything. But as I have always mentioned, is that it was never really to the housing authority, it was the city of Las Vegas
Yeah.
that it would be addressed to and was addressed to.
And then the other thing, I guess, I don't know if this would be to city manager or to you guys, if you could just follow up on those findings from 2017.
Chairman Howell, Commissioners, yes, we're working with the city manager to, if there is anything missing, we did complete the packet, it was sent. We have not heard back anything that was not, that needs to be completed, but we will, if there is anything that is not sufficient, we will make sure that it gets done.
Chairman, Commissioners, I just want to ensure you guys, anything that we have taken to you has been forwarded to them. So all policies, procedures that got put before commission have been forwarded to the field office.
Thank you. Commissioner Case?
I just have one question, a follow-up from last month when I asked about a constituent who contacted me saying that she could put down earnest money on houses that were being advertised for sale, that were housing, HUD housing. Did you find out anything about that?
Chairman Howell, Commissioners, I know that Natasha might have a little bit of information.
Chairman, Commissioners, yes, we did reach out to our field office to ask them about it because one of the houses or homes that was listed is actually on our list of inaligibly sold homes. They basically said it is a spoof that has really nothing to do with HUD or with us, and it's kind of like a telemarketer calling and saying they're with PNM and they're not with PNM. It's kind of, maybe we need to put out a PSA and say if they're saying they're selling them from Las Vegas Housing Authority, they are not. We are not selling any homes at this time. Something like that, because they are not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with housing and urban development or with us.
Thank you, I appreciate the follow-up.
Thank
That's all.
you.
Commissioner LaBrie?
I just have one question. I know that the survey finished his surveying up at the west side of the Daylight Donuts, and I did check out the markings on it, and there's the west side of the wall is inside the owner's property. I don't know if we have any funding or anything that we can do with that wall, or because they finished the survey, and I don't know if you guys went and saw the markings
We
on
did,
it.
yes, Commissioner. Commissioner Liwadi. Natasha's been working on that project, and we did actually stop by to the surveyors this afternoon. I'll let her answer if she wants. She has more information about that.
Chairman, Commissioners, as far as that wall goes, the first, I believe, 3 to 4 feet from Hot Springs, this inside, I'm sorry, I have such a bad sense of direction. I think Hot Springs is west, right? I don't know. But inside is ours, and the rest belongs to a private owner. There is an anti-donation clause within the state of New Mexico, so we cannot actually repair the wall if it is on the owner's property. But if, that little portion, which isn't leaning, is the portion that is on our property, which we can maintain that portion of it, but not the remainder of it. I also, I provided a memo, I think, that went out to you guys, to Commission, about the process that it would entail. We are going towards our 5-year plan that we're putting together currently. So I will put, landscaping on there in that area, as well as engineering services for that area in case there is anything we can do there. But legally, I think we can just touch the property that belongs to us. We
Chairman,
can't.
Commissioner, Chairman Howell, Commissioner, sorry. We have not, as I mentioned, received the entire report yet. Once we do, we can make that available to you so that there's better information as to exactly the markings and property lines.
Yes.
I did go see that part of where the markings at, and half of the walls inside are the city property, and the other half is where we built it back in the 80s, built it, yeah, and I'm just concerned on the west side of that wall. That's, we don't have to do all the wall, or whatever it needs to do, but if it's going to take 5 years to do that, it's a little hard for the owner to to wait for an accident to happen that might cost the city some money or the owner. You know, that's, we just gotta try and work with HUD or somebody that can help us do something for that.
Yeah, I think we should, if I may, I think we should collaborate with the owner and HUD. I think it's important what Commissioner Ulibarri said about the liability of someone getting hurt. I would like for us to check into that and to see if we can collaborate to address that situation.
Yes, that's something we can discuss. Definitely.
Because,
Or we will discuss.
there's a lot of situations out there where someone has to get hurt for us to get something fixed, and that's not right. Okay? If we notice the liability, and we need to assess the liability, and then to address it and fix it.
Yes.
So,
Chairman, Commissioners, I just want a little bit of clarification. The 5-year plan isn't something that's gonna happen in 5 years. It's a budget for the next 5 years. So it starts off with 2020, then 2021, like, so it's not like far off.
Right.
And there's a thing called fungibility, so even if we don't put it in the current year, we can always funge it into the year if we need to.
Thank you.
and it'll never hurt to ask HUD to help us, to collaborate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Howell, Commissioners. The next item on the agenda is executive session.
Is there any need for executive session, Commissioners?
The next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.